Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name is Joe. Today I'm going to be playing a game from Yaah magazine, issue number 15. This is Caucasus Burning, the Nagorno-Karabakh War of 2020. This is designed by Greg Porter, and obviously, as I just mentioned, it was in Yaah magazine, or is in Yaah magazine. The magazine itself is still available for purchase from Flying Pig Games, probably elsewhere as well. I haven't really looked, to be honest, since I have mine. This is a card-driven game. There are no dice. So basically, each player has a hand, and you play cards. And if you've played 65 or Knight of Man, where the combat is basically hits and so on are determined by flipping cards, this works in a very, very similar way. So I would say it's somewhat of an adaptation of that particular mechanic. Obviously, Greg Porter did Armageddon War, which is also from Flying Pig Games and is a game that I think is awesome. So I was looking forward to actually playing this, and I did a Flying Pig month back in February, and I gave the community an opportunity to determine what I would do from Yaah magazine as part of that, and this was on there, and it finished second, I believe, behind a scenario for 65, ironically. So I am going to play this game, at least a little bit of it, just to give you guys a flavor of how the game plays. Obviously, I'm going to play it solitaire as I do for pretty much all my videos. And a couple of things. So this is Azerbaijan and Armenia fighting each other over a contested area here in the middle, which is obviously you can see the red outline, the blue outline, the white outline. All of these have impacts on, well, the white line, for one thing, will have impacts on movement. And the red and blue have impacts on victory points. Okay, so this section in the middle is these guys here are Artsakh. And this is the area that's contested between Azerbaijan and Armenia. So they're fighting over this. They have their own forces, and they're set up in cities, and you might be able to see here it says entrench. So they're entrenched, which gives them a +1. Now, the way combat works in this is pretty straightforward. You add up the attackers, and then you add up the defenders, and you basically do a quick subtraction. That determines how many cards you flip. You flip cards. Greens would be hits. Reds would be counterfire or hits on the attacker. There are situations where there's also gold numbers, and there's situations where those would also be hits on the attacker, depending on what's going on. So the game is not overly complex. The rules, I think, are like about 12, 13 pages in the magazine, not anything crazy. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So I am going to get started. Now, the way this works is you would typically start a turn with a battle for initiative between the two players, where each one would play a card, and the cards have values. So let me just take this top card off the draw deck here. So here you see this number 6. It's a green. So if this was a combat card or used in combat, that would be a hit. Then you have actions on here, and the ones that are green would be a reaction, and this is an action. So this is an airstrike card, as you can tell. So you would play this, and you can make a 4 firepower attack on any target. So that could be an action if you're Azerbaijan. So this one would not be playable for Armenia unless they played the drone strike, which allows you to disrupt a unit that just entered a hex other than for an assault. So I'm going to get into the mechanics a little bit in a bit. But what I was trying to tell you is the number in here, the 6, is what this card's value is when you're trying to determine initiative. So I'm going to tuck this guy on the bottom. And we will continue here. So I have the decks, or the hands for both sides in front of me. Each side gets 4 cards. So at the end of they'll be able to draw up to 4 as the game goes on. There are also day end cards, where you're fighting during the day, and then you'll hit a day end card, and that will trigger a night turn, which is just like each side can play 1 action. and then we'll start another day. And when you get to the second day ending card, which is a red card, hard to miss, once you hit that for the second time, you basically have to reshuffle and reseed the day end cards in there. And you go on, and at the end of a day, you would score political points, and each side has a political point counter. And the first side that gets to 10 triggers the end game. And then you play one final night turn, and then you do scoring based on units that you've killed, what cities you hold, etc., etc. So the political points kind of mimic or mirror the way the international community and internal politics, etc., are viewing the war and the progress of the war. If you get to 10, you're essentially forcing your opposition to come to the table, talk. If you are Azerbaijan and you've captured a bunch of Artsakh cities, you come to the table and you say, hey, it's time to, stop fighting, and we're going to keep these, or whatever it may be, right? So basically it's the peace process, but it's all kind of it's abstracted, rather. Sorry, my mouth running ahead of my brain there. And so all of this just kind of, as I mentioned, tracks that stuff. And then these red ones, when you hit a red one, your opponent gets to play a political card. Each side has, I think, 6 of those, and they have various effects on the game as well. So as I said, we're going to get started here. Okay, so on day 1, first day, the sequence is a little bit different. So the Azeri player for Azerbaijan, they get the first move, so they automatically have initiative. And both sides start with starting cards. So here's the Azerbaijan starting cards. There are 4 of them. So these actions, you get to basically pick one and do it. And then you play these just like a regular card after that. For the Armenian player, they only have 2 starting cards, and so we draw 2 regular cards for them to start off with as well. This is our draw deck over here, so this is where I'll be drawing cards for refilling the hand, flipping for combat, all that kind of stuff. Okay? So what we do is we don't have to play the initiative card. As I mentioned, that uses the number in the bottom. For Azerbaijan, just to kind of get things rolling, I'm going to do the Azeri airstrike. So Azerbaijan player only, make a 5 firepower attack on an enemy unit or city. If negated, remove this card from the game. Okay. Well, the Armenians, you can play a reaction card. They don't have a reaction that will do anything to take out that airstrike. So they're going to strike here. So it's 5 firepower. Now you look at the defense value of the unit. So we're going to attack this city. Okay, so this is an important point here. You see the lines here. These are roads. And you have to have logistics is part of this. So you have to have supply, and supply is mainly traced along roads. Because as you might know or not know, based on how familiar you are with this particular part of the world, these are mountains. These dark areas are mountains. The green areas are hills. So there are other like little roads and stuff inside here, but these are the main thoroughfares. These are the ones that you would be able to move supplies and so forth along. So it's very important from a logistical standpoint to capture these cities like this one here, which is Shushi and Stepanaket, Kurt, whatever, or over here. You have all these cities that are important to take in terms of, if you hold them, they're junctions for roads that either go down here into Armenia or up into Azerbaijan or across. And so you have, important things that you have Merakert over here, which is another important one. In fact, maybe we won't do Martini here. So the map is sideways. You've probably noticed that, because when you read the rules, it says that ideally you want to start with, say like the Armenian player on this side and Azeri player on the other side. Here's Iran. Iran is out of play. So this is your main playing area, of course. So I opted for two reasons to turn the map sideways. One, this is kind of how they, Greg Porter, when he wrote the rules, kind of suggests playing it from the side. So I'm on what would be the Armenian player side, but I also turned it because it fits the video frame very well. You can see the whole map now. If I turn it the other way, I can make it so you can see the whole map, but it'll be a further out shot, right? It's just an aspect ratio thing with the way video is done. Enough about video aspect ratios. Let's get back to the game. So we're going to attack this area right here, okay? So you have to wonder, or you have to calculate the differential between the airstrike strength, which is 5, and the defensive value of the defenders in the city of Talish here. So they have an entrenchment marker, which you see counterfire hits on gold. So instead of red, they hit on gold. Okay, and then they have here on the counter, there are 3 values. So what do those 3 values mean? So the counter values, the first number on the left is its assault value. And all combat, a lot of war games, as you guys probably know, like you can have ranged fire, right? Like this guy can just fire at this guy. That's not how this game works. To attack, for this stack to attack this stack, he's going to have to move in and go into that hex. And it's all assault combat. So obviously, this is not tactical level. These are big units. They need to be close. So essentially, they need to be in the same hex and fight it out in the same hex. So that's how all combat works, ground combat anyway. Air combat is kind of similar. We're just, like I said, we have 5 combat factors. So we have some jets coming in. They're going to hit this Talish defense here. So that's their attack value, their movement value, their defense value. So it's a 1. They get an additional 1 for being entrenched. Okay, so it's also possible to actually just attack the city, but we're not doing that. We're attacking the unit in the city because we want to capture the city. So I could also have done it up here, which maybe would have been better, but the defense value up here is probably too high. So the defense value here is 2, so we're going to draw 3 cards. So we have 1 for the defense and of the unit and 1 for the entrenchment. Now, because this is an airstrike, they can't do counterfire. They could do counterfire if they had an anti-aircraft unit that was within range, something like this. This is an air defense unit. They do not have that. So, these are Azeri units down here. These obviously are Artsakh, and then these guys down here are Armenian. So those are your three combatants, essentially. And so these guys are fighting to save their homes. They're being attacked by other forces, etc., etc. So we're going to resolve this. So we're going to draw 3 cards. I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3. And we'll flip them one by one. A green would be a hit, so that is a miss. That is also a miss. And that is also a miss. So guess what? They did no damage at all. All right. So that airstrike was a wipeout, essentially. No damage. So now the turn would go to the Armenians. Although actually, before you would do that, you could, if you were the Azeris. So I have to discard this because this is the one I played. But he has 3 cards left. He could discard 2 of these and just keep 1. And then on his next turn, he draws back up to 4. But these are actually pretty good cards. So I'm going to actually keep them for the Azeri player. And so now we're doing our Armenians. So they have transport, reinforcements, sore loser, and push, although they can also do some of these. So they can do an assault. They can do a tactical move. They have another assault. They have a push, which means draw a card, then play 2 actions. Both actions will complete even if day ends during resolution. Maybe we'll do that. We'll do draw a card, and we get artillery and propaganda, Armenian player only. Oh, look at that. So we're gonna play this propaganda card to get a political point, and this gets discarded and removed from the game. So I'm going to put it out on the left. So this is the Armenian political track. So they move that here, and that means that the Azeri player actually gets to take one of these political cards. So you take it from the top. And so this is now their card. So they can either do Syrian mercenaries or dig in. And they will do this on their next turn, I believe. Yes, that is true. So they now have 4 cards and they won't need to draw another card. So this card just goes into your deck and you can use it. So your political cards, according to the rules, will always have one action that you can do and then one action that could work for either side. So because once this is played, it depends. If you play it for dig in, then it would go into the discard pile and it can come out as a regular card after that. But you can also put it in, if you use this one, it gets removed from play because this will give you Syrian mercenaries. So you basically get a couple extra combat units. But to get back to what we were doing on the Azeri side, so they played one action and they get to play another action. So as I mentioned, we were playing this card here, the push card. They turn only, draw a card, then play 2 actions. So I'm going to discard that because we're doing that. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the transport action here, which allows us to move 1 hex of units at +3 movement points and -1 defense factor. You may not enter an enemy occupied hex. So I'm going to be a little bit aggressive here as the Armenians. So this is a road, and this is Vardinis down here, which is an important area because this is somewhere where Armenian reinforcements can come in, and this is Azerbaijan right here. So it's like a direct path into their territory, one that I'm going to actually use. So this is a clear terrain, this kind of tannish color. So they can move here for 1 movement point. So they have 4, 6, and 4. So essentially, since 4 is the lowest, that gives them 7 movement points. So this would leave them with 6. Now, if we move into the hills, that's 4. So we will move into the hills here. And that's really all we can do, although I can move the this one up if I want to. I'm not going to, but I want to keep them together because next turn I'm going to try and threaten this Dashkasan here to try and put a little pressure on them because as the Azeri player, they want to push this way and ultimately engulf the Artsakh area. But also if they can capture Vardinis, that gives them a way to plug put a cork in the reinforcement path here, which means they'd have to come in down at the bottom, and then they have a much harder path to actually interfere in Azeri territory. So that's the thinking there. Okay, so we've played, I have 2 cards left, so they're going to get 2 on the next turn. I am not going to discard, so now we would go back to the Azerbaijan turn. They have 4 cards. I'm going to hold on to this mercenary card. I'm not playing it right now. Let's see if we can do something here with Marakurt maybe. Because I have this unified assault, so I can move these guys in to do an assault, and we'd have a lead unit with a firepower of 3 plus 2 additional units, which would give us a total of 5. And then if I move these guys up, that would give us 6, 7, 8 total factors that we can put in play here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do this unified assault. Move 2 hexes of units, 1 hex each. At least one of these moves must be an assault. So we're going to do that. So these guys are going to go in, and they're going to assault Marakurt, and then these guys are going to move up to Tartar here and join in. So we know we have 8 on the offensive side. Defensively, we have 2 and a 0, 3, and an entrench. So that's going to be a 4. So it's 8-4, and they get to hit counterfire with gold colors, and we still don't really have any reactions that we can play on the Armenian side because the Armenians managed to Artsakh forces as well, if that was not obvious. So we're going to draw 4 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we flip the first, It's a green, which is a hit. It's also a day end card. So we're going to go to a night turn after the resolution of our combat here. So that's 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits, and a miss. But it's red, which would be counterfire, or could be counterfire normally, but in this case it's not because it's not gold. So they got 3 hits. And the way hits are applied is you take, first you would disrupt. And because we have 3 units here and 3 hits, all 3 of them will get a disruption marker. So I'm just going to put 1 disrupted on the very top to indicate that all 3 of these are disrupted. And then these guys would back up because they can't stay in that hex. They didn't win. They didn't knock them out. So they would go like there. And that would be the end of the Azeri turn. And we would move back over to the Armenians, except we had our day end card. Okay, so it says set aside or shuffle back into deck, play a night turn. After 3rd night turn, reshuffle deck, remove all road out counters. Okay. So for our night turn, you can place 1 action face down and resolve in initiative order, then remove all unready or disrupted markers unless unit was in a night combat. The Azeri have initiative, so tripping over my tongue a little bit. So initiative order would say that they get to go first. So Armenia basically loses a turn with this. So a night turn sequence, we don't draw any cards. Because you only get to refill your cards on a night turn, or refill your hand on a night turn when you draw the end of day card as part of your refilling of your hand, which did not happen. It happened during combat. So each player plays 1 action card face down, starting with the player who triggered the night turn. So that would be the Azeris. If no action card in hand is something you want to play, or you have no cards, you can simply decline to play one. After all the action cards are played, they're revealed and resolved in the order they were played. You can play a reaction card. Okay, so here's our Azeri card. So they have push and full resupply. Oh, that's what I forgot to do, is put an unready on these guys. Because once you do an action like move, and I also needed to put 1 on. This is all going to come off here, but I forgot to put 1 on there as well. Once you do an action, basically it's like an ops complete mark in other games, a marker rather. You're just not ready to do another action. It just indicates that you've already done something this turn. So it's essentially the same thing as an ops complete. So we can do full resupply, but we're going to lose these at the end of the night turn anyway. So neither of those. So we have artillery that we could do if we had one that's in range, which I think we do, but whether or not it would be worth it is a whole other question, because I don't think it would be. Because I'm thinking here, but that's their defense factor is a 2, and that's a 2 firepower, although they do have that one too. Okay, so artillery does have a range of 2. So if we do this guy attacking here as the lead guy, that would be 2, plus 1 more would be 3. And their defense, as I mentioned, is a 2. So we're going to play this card, the artillery card. We'll draw 1 card because that's the only difference, and we do get a hit. Okay, so that will disrupt these guys. And then these 2 would both get an unready marker as well. And that would be the Azeri. Now you're supposed to play these at the same time, which I didn't do, but it's not really a big deal. So reinforcements we can do. We can't do tactical move. We could do sore loser or assault. I don't really have anybody in position for an assault. So what I'm going to do is a reinforcement. 1 or 2 units from the same formation on map, edge, road, hex, in Armenia. So this is where we could put a unit in Vardinas here. So we have options because all of our Armenian reinforcements over here, our Azeri reinforcements are on the right side as you're looking at it. So let's take the 4th Army because it does have 2 units. So we're going to put these 2 guys here in Vardinas. Okay, to pump up the defense a little bit. And so that would be the end of the turn, and then we would do political points. So we're not at the end of the deck yet. We're just at the end of the first day. So basically, we're going to tally these up at the end of the end of every 2 days, whenever we do a reshuffle, which we're not at that point yet. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is do initiative. So the Armenians only have 1 card, which is a 2. The Azeris have their political card, which has a value of 5. They also have this card, which has a value of 8. So they're going to play the 8. The Armenians will play the 1 they have, so that's going to be that. So that leaves the Azeris with 1 card, so they're going to draw 3 new ones. 1, 2, 3. See what we get. So we get these are the cards we drew. All right. Then we have our Syrian mercenaries card as well. Oh, I needed to clean up here as well. I didn't do the cleanup step. Okay, so I've cleaned it up. Now, according to the rules, the stuff that happens in the night turn, if you become unready or disrupted in the night turn, it stays. Everything else that you did during the day preceding the night turn comes off. So we lost a couple of things in this area from over here and from here, and now we can begin our I almost said Syrian, Azerbaijani or Azeri. Sorry. You know what? We're going to attack using this loitering drone, which says move 1 hex of units into an enemy hex, gain +2 firepower on the attack. So we're going to attack Marakert here. So we have a couple of units we can use here. So if we move this 10th territorial in, we have, let's see, we have 3 could be the lead unit because you have to designate a lead unit and a lead defender as well, which will be the Marakert defense here. So we have 3, 4, 5, because these each get 1 because they're an additional unit. I didn't mention that, I don't think, prior to this, but I'm mentioning it now. So they'll have 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 2 from this card will be 7. And then I can add 3 more here by using these guys who are also adjacent, which will make it 10. Now their defense will be 2, nothing for that, and 1 for that is 3, plus 1 for entrench is 4. So we're looking at 10 to 4, which is 6 cards. So remember, this is the unit they're moving into here. We get 6 cards, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, there we go. With gold entrenched, that's a hit against the attacker. 1 on the defender, 2 on the attacker, 2 on the defender, 3 on the defender, 4 on the defender. So 4 hits to the defenders, 2 hits to the attackers. Okay, so 4 hits. Now we have 3 defender units. That means all 3 will get disrupted, and 1 of them will also get reduced. So we get to decide which one, as the defender, we would decide which one. And I think I'm going to make it the artillery unit. And I'll keep my infantry and my armor. So all 3 of these are disrupted. I'm just going to drop a disrupted on there. These guys are going to be unready. Now we have 2 hits here, so we're going to give it to the bottom 2 units here, the artillery unit. That's a BMP, so it's infantry. So I'm going to stick a disrupted on here. So this guy is the only one who's not disrupted, but he's unready, and so are the other ones. Okay, so that was the Azeri attack, or Azeri turn. Now we do the The Armenians, they get 4 cards because they don't have any at the moment. And so we get an intercept, reaction. We get a transport, advance, artillery, Azeri airstrike, a ceasefire, an aggressive assault, and an advance. All right, I'm going to play my advance card, and we're going to advance these guys 1 hex, and we'll put an unready on there. We are not going to assault. We don't have enough movement to get into this hex to do the assault because it's 4 to cross here. So next turn, we'll be able to assault them. So now we go back to the Azeri. They get 1 card. They draw transport and artillery. I'm going to use this tactical move, which allows us to draw a card, then move 1 or 2 hexes of units, 1 hex each. You may not enter in any enemy-occupied hex, so we're going to draw a card. It says we can move 1 or 2 hexes, so we're going to move this guy here, and we're going to move this guy here. Now you see the green border around those hexes? So these green bordered areas are actually technically part of Azerbaijan that were kind of grafted onto Nagorno-Karabakh from the result of the war that these guys fought in the 90s. So they're obviously a lot of this is disputed. That's why they fought a war over it twice. So this was actually Azeri territory beforehand. So that's kind of just a little bit of background because obviously it doesn't matter for gameplay. But the point of doing that was to move these guys up so that they can attack here in Talish, which sits on a road, of course. So that's an important thing to take. Again, we want to take roads, right, from the enemy. But we still have this line open and this line open. Basically, because remember I talked about logistics, you have to have a line of supply for the Armenians. It has to trace back to Armenia. For the Azeris, it has to trace back to Azerbaijan, as you would expect. Okay, so that was the Azeri turn. They drew a card, so they have 4, and they won't be drawing one on the next turn. So now the Armenians rather get to draw a card. They get an assault card to go with what they've already got. See, part of the problem with playing solitaire is you sometimes forget to look for reaction cards, which is what I just did. I think I'm going to do a transport. Move 1 hex of unit at +3 movement points and -1 defense factor. So we're going to do that again. We did this earlier. We're going to move this guy up. So this would be a 1 because it's in clear terrain on a road. Road through hilly is 2, so that's 3, 5, 7, and they're going to stop right there because this guy could go on, but I'm going to try to keep these 2 together maybe. I could split them up. This guy can go, 1 further, but I don't think that's going to really make much difference. Now, before I do my next move, I realized I did not put unready markers on those guys who already moved. Otherwise, I'd be like, hey, why don't I attack right there? Well, you can't. I have 2 things here that I'm looking at from the Azeri side. We have our 5th territorial ganja here, which makes me laugh for reasons that you probably can figure out on your own. I can move here for 1 and then in here for 4, which would be a total of 5. So we're going to do that. Let's load up right here and have us be ready to really lay the wood right there next turn. So we're going to expend our transport card. That goes in the discard pile. We swap back over to the Armenian side, and they get an Azeri airstrike or tactical retreat. They're not drawing really particularly good cards here, is the problem. I'm going to basically pass, and I'm going to discard 1 card. I'm going to discard this and pass, basically. So now we go back to the Azeri side. draw a card. They get transport and bad intel, which is a reaction card. I could use this other transport because I've got a bunch of transport cards. So we're going to do that. We're going to use the transport card, and we're going to move this guy, and we'll move him. So he's got a 4, 4, 4. So they can move 7. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we'll just move him here to Goigol. And we will drop an unready on them. And we spent our transport card. Now we'll draw again for the Armenians, and they get Armenian air defense, which is a reaction, or reinforcements. Place 1 or 2 units from the same. All right, so I guess we'll do that since I don't want to use any of these other cards. We're going to take the 2 units of the 228th Air Defense and bring them in Vardinis. And now we go back to the Azeris, draw another card. They get an assault card and a tactical move. They're going to play the Syrian reinforcements. So this will allow them to bring in Syrian reinforcements, which will come in Hindarch and Balagan, which are... Well, he can't move that. That can't go in there. They can go there, though. So we're going to do that. We're going to bring in our Syrian mercenaries. So they're going to go right on top of that, like so. And now we go back to the Armenians, and we get our day end card. So since they were refilling and this gets used, they're going to draw another card so that they're full. And we go through another day end here, except this time at the end, we'll also calculate political points, of which I don't think there really are any yet because nobody's been eliminated. And we haven't captured any enemy cities yet either. So initiative order, we get to start again with the Azeri. They don't really have much they can do. We'll do the tactical move. Oh, that's day turn only, so we can't do that. So what we'll do instead is we'll do this transport, 1 hex of units, 3 movement points. So we're going to move these 2 here, and they will get an unready. And that unready will stay. Now we'll do the Armenian. So they have an Armenian airstrike. So we're going to use this. We're going to use this Armenian airstrike, and we're going to hit our 6th territorial in Dashkasan. So we'll do that. We get a +3 firepower. So they just have 1 defense. And so we're going to draw 2 cards, which we still have 2. We had 3 cards left. So the first one is nothing, and the second one is a hit. So that will disrupt them, which doesn't really do much. I needed both to hit because then we would reduce them. So that is the end of that. So I have to do cleanup. I have to shuffle the deck and put the end turns back in. So I'm going to do that off camera. And then we'll talk about the calculation of the political points, so on and so forth. Okay, so we're ready to resume here. As you can see, the unready stayed there because I was done on the night turn. This was also done on the night turn, so I left it because I realized that I needed to do that. So it is time for initiative. And we're going to play the this card here, the 4, for the Armenians. And they have a 4 and a 2, so they're actually going to play a 4 as well. Because I do not want to give up these 2 cards for the Armenians. This one has the ceasefire that I want to have, and this one has the aggressive assault on it that I also want to have. Now they could have used, I guess, this one, assault and bad weather. You know what? Let's just do that. We'll make it easy on ourselves and not have a tie. We'll just play this one, which is a 2. We'll let the Armenians go first. They have 2 cards. They're going to draw 2 more. So they get transport and artillery, Azeri air defense, and tactical move, assault and ceasefire, and aggressive assault and advance. So it's time to do the aggressive assault. Okay, so we're going to do that, and we're going to do it right here. We have 4, 5, 6 attacking that one, who has a defense of, guess what, 0 because he's disrupted. And we get to add 2 more, so that gives us 8. 8 hits. So we're going to draw our, well, let's draw them one at a time, because maybe we don't need to draw all 8. So hit, that's going to reduce them. Hit, that's going to destroy them. So they have destroyed this unit. So that's the first dead unit of the game. I'm going to put it on the side of the board there to indicate that it's dead. That will go back. These guys can advance into the hex. And they've now captured that hex, so at the end of the political thing, I forgot to mention this when we did flip to the new turn with the new deck reshuffled. None of this changed because they hadn't captured anything and nobody had been killed. That will not be the case now. Assuming we don't get bumped out of here, we'll get points for this. We'll also get a point for killing that unit. These are discards. That is the completion of their turn, so they get that stuck on them. Now, they have 1 card left, them being the Azeris, so they get 3. 1, 2, 3. And we get transport and artillery, assault and ready for action, Azeri airstrike, and ceasefire. Let's do the airstrike. See if we can soften somebody up here. So we have a big kind of stack of death thing going on here potentially. So I'm going to hit this guy with an airstrike. So Azerbaijan, player only. Make a 4 firepower attack on any target. If negated, remove this card from the game. Now, negated, how would we negate it? With air defense, but I don't have any air defense units in this area. I don't think. I do not. Because there's only 1 there, and this is just artillery. So no, there's nobody in the vicinity that can do anything, except for Azerbaijan has some air defense there, but obviously this is their attack. So it is a 4 firepower attack. They get a 2 on defense, so we get 2 cards. We draw the first one. That is a hit, which will disrupt them. We draw another one. That is gold, which is not a hit. And because it's an airstrike, they can't fire back, no counterfire. So what they've done is disrupted that unit. Okay, so now we go back to the Armenians, draw a card. They get sore loser and assault. So we can withdraw all units 1 hex from assault on an enemy city you hold. You take no damage. Place damaged marker on enemy city. That's a reaction card, and it could be used if they're assaulting. Like if they come down here and attack me here, I can play this card, pull out damage the city, which gives them a victory point, and lets them get out of there without being damaged. So that is obviously worthwhile. But in terms of what we're going to do here, I did my assault already. So we will again do a transport, and we're going to move these guys, and we're going to go 1, 2, that would be 6, and we can go a total of 7. So we're going to have to stop here, I think. So we're going to go here and put an unready on them. Now we'll go back to the Azeri player, and they draw their Syrian mercenary political card again. I think I wasn't supposed to put this back in this deck. Oh, this card was supposed to be removed because they used it for that. So that's why. All right. So we get a logistics problem and a ready for action. So place an unready counter on 1 hex of enemy units outside its own territory. I don't think we have anybody in that situation yet. They're outside their territory, but they're already unready, so they can't do that. Remove an unready marker from a unit enemy has just moved adjacent to. That's nice. They have a transport as well. They're going to do an assault, I guess. So they're going to do an assault right here. Okay, we will use out one of our threes. We'll just say First Army Goigal will be the lead unit. So that's 3. Oh, this is actually a 4. So we'll do the 4. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Because we're going to attack with all of those. They're already disrupted. And I have a reaction card ready for the Armenians, but I don't think it's going to save this guy. So we will start drawing, and we draw a hit. So that will trigger the Armenians to use their ceasefire card as a reaction card, which negates a hit, gains a political point, and remove this card from the game after use. So that card goes away. They gain a political point. Azeri draw another political card, which gives them redeployment. So they can do recover two damage steps on Azeri units. And they also have an artillery, which could be used for either person. All right, so we're going to draw again. So that leaves them with, well, the defense here is a 1, and they had 12. So they have 10 left because they started with 11. So we're going to flip another one. That is a gold. That is a hit on the attacker. Then we draw another one. So now it's 1-1 hit-wise with 8 cards left. That's a second hit to the attacker. It's 1-2 with 7 cards left, and we get a day end. So this is going to be the end of the day as well. Then we draw another one. That's 2-2 with, I think, 6 left. Yep. Then a third hit, and that's going to be enough to destroy. Actually, 2 hits would have been enough. So I'm gonna keep this out anyway, since I've already seen it. So that's going to end the day. But first, this guy is eliminated. So they have an eliminated unit as well. And I'll put the entrenched marker back over there. Now our hex here, these guys can move up and capture that city. And we get to the night turn now. So we get to the night turn. So again, actually the Armenians now have first go. They don't get to draw, and they don't really have a whole lot that they can do. They have an assault, and they have a, they can't do this because it's a reaction. This is also a reaction, and it's also for the Azeris, and this is a day only thing. So they actually can't do anything. So they're going to pass. So that leaves the Azeris to do something. So we're going to take our Syrian mercenaries and our artillery here. We're going to move them up to this spot. So they will be adjacent. They will be unready, of course. So they won't be able to attack when daytime comes. But yeah, they're going to be there for the next turn. Now, I should have attacked here, but I didn't. And since I already did that, I'm not going to reverse it. That's just what they're going to do. We'll save this for the daytime turn, because the nighttime actually adds 1 to the defender anyway. So they would have a 2, 3, 4, 5. They'd have like a 6 defensively. So it's really not worth it. So that's going to end the night turn. So again, I'm going to go in and pull all these out, and we'll get started and resume here in a second. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is figure out who has initiative. So I think we want to keep this, and we want to keep our political card. So the Azeris will play a 6. And on the other side, they're going to play this one, I guess. Yeah, they're going to play this one. So the Azeris will get initiative. They will get to draw. They draw 2 cards. Okay, so they get an assault and a ceasefire. They get an advance and a bad intel. So we're going to do an assault, I guess. So we're going to do an assault here. Move 1 hex of units into an adjacent hex with enemy units. Here. Because the defense here is only a 1, and they have 4, 5, 6 that they can attack with. So let's do that. They're going to attack here. So that's 6-1, which is going to mean 5 cards. So a red means an attacker hit. A green hit there, so that's 1-1 with 3 cards left. 2 attacker hits. That's nothing. And the last card is 2. So it's 2 hits to both sides. 2 hits to both sides. So that's going to disrupt both of those units, and it's going to disrupt 2 of these units as well. And they both get marked unready. Okay, so now we'll draw 3 cards for the Armenians. 1, 2, 3. And they get an Armenian airstrike. They get an artillery and unified assault. So we're going to do an Armenian airstrike. So Armenian airstrike, a 3 firepower attack on any target. So we will attack our friends in here because they're already, 2 of them are already disrupted, and we might be able to kill somebody. Maybe. Unlikely, but we need all 3 to hit. And there is actually a unit in there too. So I don't think we're going to destroy anybody, but we should maybe be able to reduce somebody, hopefully. So again, there's no counterfire in here. So we're just looking for green. So that's 1 and that's nothing. That's 2 and that's nothing. And that's 3 and that's 1 hit. So 1 hit, which will make the top unit disrupted as well. So now they're all disrupted, and these guys are also disrupted as well. We go back to the Azeri turn. We get a full resupply. So this is useful here. We move all unready or disrupted counters from 1 hex. And we're going to do that up here, and we're going to remove this unready. So we're going to play this and remove that unready. The Armenians will go. They need 1 card. So they get a transport and an assault. I'm going to use the transport, and I'm going to use it here on this air defense unit. And I'm going to move it up here, as close to up here as I can. So this will be 1. They're both air defense units, and they both have a movement of 4. So basically it's a 7. So that's 1, 3, 5, 7. So they're up here now. Okay, so this will allow me to maybe range out and do some protection if the Azeris do some airstrikes. So that's the thinking there. So now we go back to the Azeris. There's only 3 cards left, so one of these is going to be that other day end turn. It looks like it might be the last one. So they get an artillery and a unified assault. So we're going to do a unified assault, and I'm going to move... Oh, I forgot to remove that disrupted from those guys. So we're going to move this guy in here. I'm just going to stick it to the side, and these guys will move up to here and assist in that attack. Okay, so this is the lead unit. It's a 3, so we're going to have 5 here, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then we have 2, 3, and 1 is 4. So they have a 4 defense and an 11 attack, right? So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes. Now we don't have enough cards for this. So we know we're going to get the day end card, which was the next card. So we'll start this off, and I get a red, which is nothing in this case, because we don't have a counter attack card on that side. So when that happens, we reshuffle, and then we finish the combat, and then in the night turn, we reshuffle again after that to reseed these 2 cards. So we had a nothing on the first one. That's an attacker hit. That's a nothing. That's 3. And we're looking at 7. That's another attacker hit. So that's 2 attacker hits, no defender hits yet, with 4 cards left. There's a defender hit, 3 cards left. Another defender hit, 2 cards left. It's 2-2. It's now 3-2 attacker with 1 card left, and a 4th hit for the defender rather. So it's 2 hits on the attacker. Yes, 2 hits on the attacker and 4 hits on the defender. So 2 hits on the attacker. So the lead unit will get 1, and so will we'll give it to the top 2 units here. So they will both be disrupted. And I guess they'll bump to here. The one underneath actually is not disrupted, but they're all going to be, whoops, that's this guy. They're all going to be unready. Now they took 4 hits, so there are 3 units here. This one's already disrupted, already reduced. So it's three disruptions and 1 reduction. So I'm just gonna, well, we'll reduce this infantry unit. So all 3 of these are now disrupted. So they're going to be disrupted and unready. Doesn't matter what order those go in. These 2 are also unready. And that's it. That ends the day turn. Now, because this was the 4th turn of the game, we would now do our calculation of political points. So the way that works, we'll do Armenia political points. Okay, so they're going to get 1 point for destroying that. And they get, at the end of the deck, you control 1 or more Azerbaijan cities, you get 1 point. So they're going to get 1 point for holding this city. Okay, and that is it for them. For the Azerbaijan, they get damage in Armenian or Artsakh city, they get a point. That has not happened. Destroy an Armenian or Artsakh armor unit. This is not an armored unit, so they do not get a point for that. And those get scored as they happen. And then the city stuff, holding a city, damaging a city or destroying a unit gets you a one-time 1 point. If you can take a city and hold the city, you get a point every time, essentially. So Armenia is actually winning. They're up to 4 political points. So Azerbaijan right now has only 1 point for controlling. Actually, no, not they don't control. They control an Artsakh city, but not an Armenian city. So Azerbaijan actually still has 0 political points, or 0. So that would be the end of it. So then, because the video is getting really long, I'm just going to explain kind of the end game process. So let's just say that Armenia had gotten to 10 instead of 4. So if they were on 10 instead of 4, what would happen is you would do the scoring. So the way the scoring works is pretty straightforward. You get each city that's controlled in Artsakh, so in the red border, you get 3 points if you're Armenian and 4 points if you're Azerbaijan. Each of these in the Nagorno-Karabakh, which is the blue border, the inside circle here, those are worth an extra point for Azerbaijan. And if you have Stepanakert, which is this one, that's worth an extra 2. And then controlling an enemy city outside the red border, so that would be like here, that's actually worth 5 points for either side. And then each enemy unit eliminated is worth 1 point. So based on that right now, they would have, Azerbaijan would get 6 points and 7, and they would get 5 points, and 1 is 6. Oh, actually, they wouldn't, because the Artsakh still hold a lot of these. So Armenia would have won by a lot, because Artsakh cities controlled by Artsakh count towards Armenian victory points. So that's an important note that I kind of left out. One thing I didn't show, which is kind of neat, is on the very back cover here of the magazine, you have this aid sheet that shows you your terrain and all this stuff, right? The move costs along the road and your defense bonus. So it's really, really useful. Day turn sequence, night turn sequence. Unit key, excellent stuff. One thing I will say about this, the components are Flying Pig game quality. The only thing that's not Flying Pig game quality is the board, the map, because it's not mounted. But it's got the big hexes. These counters, I've played enough Flying Pig games. These are Flying Pig game counters. They are big. They are solid. They punch out real easy. There's no nibs. this is just excellent, excellent stuff. Um, if you've watched my channel enough, you know I'm a big, big fan of Flying Pig games and their components and their games as well. The games are all great. That's why I did a whole month on them. So I am going to wrap this up. I just wanted to do kind of a play example, an extended play example. I could play the whole game out, but it would probably take 2 hours maybe. And I feel like nobody would watch it for 2 hours. This isn't a movie, it's a YouTube video. So that's going to do it for now. I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for taking your time to watch. And I hope you got something out of it. Please feel free to, let me know what you think via comments. If I made mistakes, which I probably did, feel free to let me know. So that when others watch it and see these errors, they'll know they were errors and what the correct course of action would be, what rule I missed or didn't apply correctly or whatever it may be. So that is going to do it. My name is Joe. This is and has been Hexed Encountered. And until next time, happy gaming.